Alright, so in this video, I'm going to teach you how to use DataStoreService in Roblox Studio so you can save user data and just any data you need to a data store. So, the first thing we're going to do is obviously make a script. So, instead of script service, I'm just going to make a script and I'm going to call it DataStoreScript. So, the first thing I'm going to need is a variable for the DataStoreService. So, how I can do that is just say local data store service equals game, go and get service, pair of brackets, pair of speech marks. Data store service. And now we've got the data store service, we need to get a specific data store. So I'm going to make a data store to store a player's cash, so how much money they've got. So I'm going to call that local cash data store. I'm going to set that equal to data store service. I'll get data store, like pair of brackets and speech marks again, and then cash store. You can put in here whatever you like, it just has to be unique for each different data store. So now we've got both the cache data store and the data store service. We need to get the data when a player joins the game, and we need to save the data when a player leaves the game. So what we're going to do is we're going to have an event that fires every time a player joins the game. So that's just game.players.player added connect function, and then a pair of brackets. Then in these brackets we can take the player object, and then if I open up this function, and now in here I'm just going to put a cache value in the player, so I'll just make an int value, and I'll set that equal to instance.new int value, and then I'm just going to set the name of the int value to cache, and then I'll set the parent to the player. So now we have this cache value in our player. We want to set it to the last value of cache the player had saved to the store. So what we're going to do is going to say local success error message equal people function, and then a pair of brackets. So what we're doing here is we're making this people function, and we're setting two variables. So success, so if this works without error, or if it's not successful, then we get this error message. So basically what this does is if there's an error in this bit of the script, it doesn't halt the entire script, it just sends the error message to here, and the script can carry on running. So what we're going to do is we're going to try and get this data from the cache data store. So what I'm going to say is local player cache equals cache data store, and get async, and then a pair of brackets, and then the key that it's saved to. So I'm just going to have it saved to the player's user ID. So I'm just going to say player.user ID. So what this is doing is setting a variable, the player cache, to whatever is currently saved to their key in the data store. And now what I'm going to say is if player cache, then, so if player cache exists, if there was something saved to that key of the data store, then I'm just going to say int value.value, so that equal to the player cache. And then I'm going to print, and then I'm going to say player.name, so the player's name, then two dots to add something else to the string. So player.name, their cache was retrieved from the data store. But I'm going to say if player cache then this, but else, so if there was no player cache previously saved, I'm just going to print player.name add no cache previously saved. So now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to check, so if error message then, so if there was an error anywhere in this bit of the script, then I'm just going to make it print error, and then I'm going to comma, and then add the error message. So now I'm going to need an event that fires every time a player leaves the game, so you can save their data to this data store. So how I'm going to do that is game.players.player removing connect function, and then again we're going to take the player object, and then again open up the function. This time I'm just going to say local success error message again equals people function. But this time we're going to be saving the player's data. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to say cache data store set async, and a pair of brackets, and now we need to get the key, which was the player's user ID, so player.user ID, and now we're setting a value to this key in the data store. So we want to set the value of this player's cache object. So how we're going to do that is we're just going to say player.cache.value, and then we can just go down here and say if success, then print success fully saved player.named data. In fact, I'll just say player's cache data else, so if it wasn't successful, print error, and then comma, and then print the error message. Now what I can do is if I play our game, in my player, you can see I have this cache value, it's currently set to 0, but if I go onto the server, and I change this cache value to 50, and then I leave the game, and then if I rejoin, you can see it says Squidingz cache was successfully retrieved from the data store, and if I go into the my player object, you'll see that my cache is what's saved. So that should work absolutely fine. If it doesn't work, if you're getting an error, make sure that in your game settings, under security, you have enable studio access to API services enabled. Because if it's disabled, it'll just block the use of data stores. Anyways, that was how you can make data stores work in Roblox Studio. It can be used to save a player's stage data, for example, in an obby, or it can be used to save a list of banned users. You can save pretty much anything. Just make sure, if you're saving tables to DataStoreService, before you try and save it to the data store, you need to use the HTTP service, and you can do that by saying local HTTP service equals game:get service, HTTP service, and before you save a table, so I'll just say local table to save equals, and then below this is a table. I wouldn't be able to save this like it is, but I would be able to save it if I said table to save equals HTTP service JSON encode, and then the table to save. And then when you're getting it back from the data store, all you need to do is to say table to save equals HTTP service JSON decode, and then the table to save. So you just need to make sure you're not saving tables, you're saving the JSON encoded versions if you're wanting to save tables to your data store. But anyways, that is how you make data stores in Roblox Studio. If you found this helpful, please subscribe. Anyways, I'll see you next time. Goodbye.